Okay, folks, so something big is about to happen to a very popular and closely watched stock. And it's going to be happening in the next 48 hours. And so we need to break down exactly what that is and what you need to know before it happens. I'm also going to be giving quite violent updates on the overall market, plays, and of course, Ooga Booga AMC. The only thing that I ask before we get into all of this is that you hit that ravishing like button, and also don't forget to subscribe either. Okay, let's go ahead and start. So very nice day. The S&P was up, the Dow was up, the NASDAQ was up, ARK continued to go up. In terms of notable plays and updates, EVgo is up about 12% at highs. ChargePoint had some exciting news. They announced that they will be purchasing a European technology platform called Has2Be. Has2Be focuses on the software side of charging stations in the European market. Obviously, Europe is one of the fastest growing markets for EVs, so by investing and diversifying more in that market, ChargePoint is setting themselves up to take another market besides just the North American market. Has2Be works with over 40,000 charge points worldwide. Point of charging, not charge points. There's only one charge point, the company, but points of charging 40,000 plus. They have 20 plus certified hardware partners. They have 250,000 roaming charge points in Europe and are in 45 plus countries. Keep in mind, if you're a company trying to build out into an expanding market, you have two different ways to do it. Number one, you could say, okay, I'm going to build from scratch. And number two, you could buy other companies that already built into those markets, and then you could just build onto that. And ChargePoint has the capital to do the second. And the second, oftentimes, is just more efficient. In terms of AMC, quite the show today. Up like 40% since yesterday's low and up like 28% at highs today alone. Almost everything consumer cyclical went up today, but AMC was really a different beast. Certainly AMC's rise today was one of the most powerful. Not only did it enjoy the trend change, but it also emboldened a lot of the retail sidelined apes to get back in and buy the dip. And it has always been very interesting to me when AMC goes down 1 or 2 or 3%, the media's like, AMC's tanking. Retail's losing all their money. We told you, don't follow the dumb money. But when AMC goes up 20 to 30% in a day, what do you hear from the media? Nothing. Crickets. You don't even see the name AMC mentioned. It's almost like they only cover events that fit their narrative, but that can't be. That would be unfair coverage. The media has no problem telling you to buy something that could go up, if you're lucky, 10% in a year, but at the same breath, they won't even acknowledge a stock that goes up 30% in a day because fundamentals. But honestly, even in the retail community, it's quite interesting to see how polarizing this AMC situation has become. On one side, we have people saying, hey, you know what? You guys gotta let AMC go. This is over. It's a dud. And then on the other side, you got the apes saying, ooga me booga, this ain't over. The fact of the matter is that you really don't have to be aligned with any crowd. You want to be aligned with yourself and your own research and your own due diligence. Buying stocks when they are going up is just like walking onto a stage where the crowd is cheering you on and rooting for you. And buying a stock when the stock's going down is like going onto a stage where the crowd is booing you and calling you a dumb loser who should go back to the mother's basement. Hey, you know, that basement's not too bad. You just got to make sure you're out before the floods come in. The fact of the matter is, though, that it's very easy to crave that warm and fuzzy feeling of the crowd satisfaction. You want to feel like everybody else agrees with you, because that way you must be onto something, right? Because if the crowd all thinks something, then it must be true. Or perhaps you're just somebody that has the satisfaction of saying to yourself constantly, well, I'm against the crowd, so I'm smarter than everybody else. When in reality, whether the crowd likes you or not, you gotta still go on stage and make the correct decision. If you formulated your opinion on a stock and you think that the probability and the setup makes sense for you and the risk tolerance makes sense, hey, guess what? It doesn't matter if the crowd's booing. It doesn't matter if the crowd is cheering you on. You gotta make your own decision. And part of that decision is saying, hey, well, I got the conviction to hold that. I don't care if the stupid crowd is like, you suck. Or if the crowd's like, you're the best thing since shredded bread. You gotta tell yourself, hey, I might not be shredded bread, but I'm definitely not a dumb loser either. I made my decision on my own accord, and if I'm wrong, hey, I'm wrong, but at least I learned from it. I promise you that you're not going to learn much, and you're not going to grow your account from debating with anonymous accounts on Twitter or Stock Twits or the Weeble comment section. There's a ton of value in talking with each other and sharing opinions and research, but there's a whole nother level to just random bickering and saying, I hate AMC, I love AMC, I hate that stock, you're stupid for buying that stock. You think the top hedge fund managers on Wall Street go and call other hedge fund managers and say, hey, if you buy that, you're going to be a stupid bag holder. Good luck on that bag you're holding. No, of course they don't, because they're not morons. They're not concerned with what the other guy's doing. They're concerned with what they're doing. At the end of the day, keep in mind that, hey, the stock market's an individual game. This is a game with many, many players, and each player has their own stake in it. Each player has their own risk, and each player has their own reward. To some people watching today's rally, this is evidence of a 100% guarantee that AMC is about to rebound. To others, it's just a bull trap, and there's lots of people in between. And in my opinion, it doesn't really matter what happens with AMC tomorrow or next week. What matters is that at the end of the day, hedge funds have to cover, and the higher price they have to cover at, the more the probabilities are in our favor. Where probabilities go against us is if retail decides to start selling out in mass. Now, I happen to be of the opinion that this AMC 8 situation is going to stick around for a lot longer than people are expecting. And because I'm of that opinion, I think that the probabilities are more in line with retail than they are with short sellers. Okay, now for the main entree. So yesterday we talked about how you need to be keeping an eye on CCIV, and the reason is because on Thursday we have that merger vote, or as they say in France, vote. If you are a CCIV shareholder, make sure that you're voting before tomorrow night, because that's when they close the voting, and on Thursday, they're going to reveal the results. And in some other situations earlier this year and last year, need I remind you of SBE and ChargePoint's merger, you've seen the mergers actually get delayed because the votes didn't go through. You couldn't get enough people to show up to vote. And in CCIV's case, it looks like the composition isn't going to allow that to happen, but still, it's important to vote. Okay, that being said, what do we know about Lucid going into this merger with CCIV? Well, we know that they're introducing a model that is going to be extremely competitive in both exterior and interior in terms of specs with the batteries. Battery range is excellent. We know their leadership brings a ton of experience to the table, and we know that they've had a decent amount of proof of concept in terms of their extensive testing over the last decade. We know that they've built out their own manufacturing capacity, their own retail stores in EV-heavy markets, and they've expanded their marketing capacity as well. We know that the reservation data we have suggests that they have about 10,000 reservations for the Lucid Air, their first sedan that's coming onto the market. We know that Lucid's production goals are scaling massively in deliveries in 2022 through 2026, but we also don't know exactly how well this brand is going to take. This is a completely new brand that most people haven't heard of. I mean, yes, people who are obsessed with the stock market or who are obsessed with EVs are going to know Lucid. There's some people that may have seen a showroom or may have seen a billboard. There's a billboard by my house. But how do you actually start really penetrating that market? How do you actually build that brand reputation and that trust? Especially when it comes to a brand new vehicle that nobody's ever heard of. Tesla was one of the fastest and most impressive companies to build that brand reputation, image, and really status as a status symbol. But they certainly didn't do it in the first year. They certainly didn't do it in the third year. They did it over 5 to 10 years. And Lucid is just starting, and now there's a lot more competition as well. Obviously, pre-orders look very strong, so there's some good indication of demand there, but at the same time, hey, pre-orders, they had a long time to build those up. The other problem with projections is how do you project all of the risk factors in terms of actually getting their vehicles to market? So many ambitious EV companies make bold production promises, only to miss quarter after quarter after quarter. And one of those was Tesla for many years, and in some cases it still is. And while Lucid has built up a very strong manufacturing capacity for such an early stage company, hey, we're still far away from massive scale production or any actual delivering to the market production. How do you really quantify the rise in competition over that same time period where Lucid Air is trying to scale up to market? The EV market in 2024, 2025, and 2026 is going to be substantially more competitive than the EV market now, and a lot of these massive companies that already have massive wide-scale production in gasoline cars are now going to be introducing tons of EV cars. Simply put, the EV market's obviously going to be a lot more saturated by the time that Lucid achieves its scale production. That being said, the truth at the end of the day is with CCIV and Lucid merging, you have the first opportunity to take advantage of the strongest and newest entrant to the EV market. A market that is going to expand rapidly. Don't get me wrong, there's certainly some chance that you get a lot of hype around that, but the more important part, in my opinion, is the long game. And the reason that I would focus on that is because, yes, there's a lot of risk here. Yes, it's not a sure bet, but at the same time, there's a lot of potential here. And I would argue that when you put everything together, it looks like the potential and the market size that it's entering and what it brings to the table is worth that risk. I think this is one of those plays that you have to buy at a good deal, and you just have to deal with the FUD, and you have to deal with that growth process. Even in bad case scenarios, I still see Lucid as being pretty damn cheap at these prices. Post the merger hype and the honeymoon stage, obviously you could always see some selling off. That's oftentimes what we see happen, but I would be shocked if we didn't see Lucid stock actually end up slowly trending up again. Now, if this was trading in the $50 or $60 region, I would say hell no. Way too much that could go wrong at those prices, and those prices are pricing in a perfect day. But when you're in the low 20s, I think it just requires patience and perhaps a bit of luck. You look at the parties that are involved with this and have stakes in this. You have the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, who is trying to diversify themselves away from oil. You You have CEO Peter Rawlinson, who worked on the Model S. You have tons of leadership from Apple, Tesla, Volkswagen, and other notable tech or car companies. You have 20 million real-world tested miles driven. You have proprietary and competitive batteries. You have, in my opinion, some very, very smart marketing partnerships going on with, for example, Pirelli. I just think the team over at Lucid is very, very resourceful and very, very crafty, and I would be surprised if they weren't able to pull off a decent amount of what they're projecting. I think when you look past some of the risk in terms of marketing and actually getting product awareness out there, and you look past some of those early stage production problems, and you're like, hey, wait a second. EVs trade at massive, massive multiples. Once we actually get past those stages and investors start seeing these cars roll off the lots and roll off the factories, I should say, well, this is going to trade at much, much higher valuations. And you could say all day, well, yeah, Charlie, hey, but EVs can go down sometimes, so maybe we shouldn't buy it and maybe we should just hold cash because cash is a safe asset, you know. They never create any more of those. Call me naive, but at the end of the day, I think that Lucid's going to be a big player here. So we'll see what happens, but I'm very excited. Anyways, that caps off the video, folks. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us below or join us on ZipTrader Circle. If you'd like to learn how to trade with our step-by-step lessons, our private chat, and of course our daily morning briefings, I'll go ahead and put a link to ZipTrader you below, but make sure to only join us if you're willing to dedicate yourself to the process. The program was thoughtfully created to give you a process to learn and grow, but if you don't complete the structure and dedicate yourself to doing every single lesson and doing it and completing it as designed, then you're not going to get anywhere. When I buy something, I make sure that I'm going to get my money's worth out of it. So I expect you to do the same. And if you're wondering what broker to trade these stocks on, we always like to send new traders over to Webull. I'll put a link to them below as well. And signing up and depositing with the link below will also get you some free stocks. Anyways, have a great day and I'll see you in the next video.